classical music was what I was playing, and that's was the track, and the teachers I was meeting along the way and seeing were all these great pedagogues in classical music. And so I went that direction, and that's kind of how I ended up in it. I don't know that I ever really loved it. Is that really terrible to say? Like, it was a thing I did, and I liked doing it. I really did.
Sure.
I liked it. But, I when I started playing other genres, I was like, man, I wish I would have known about this so much sooner.
Welcome to episode 143 of the Bass Shed Podcast. My name is Ryan Roberts. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bass Shed Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Roberts, and on this episode, we are talking to bassist and recording artist Trish Imbrogno. Trish has such a fascinating story, right? She studied and worked as a classical bassist, and then kind of just switched and reinvented her career, studying and living and absorbing everything about bluegrass and Americana, about that whole genre, those genres of music. It's really fascinating the depth that she dove and continues to dive into really understanding and to really play this music with authenticity. Trish has just released her new EP titled Bluegrass Love Songs Volume 1. We will talk about that, and we'll talk about the journey, we'll talk about the recording process, we'll talk about so many aspects of switching the genres like she has, and what this project has meant to her. All right, before we dig into the interview, please make sure you are subscribed to the Bass Shed Podcast. If you are listening on YouTube, please make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell, make sure that you get notified about new upcoming episodes. And if you are listening to the audio version, please hit subscribe wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts. All right, Bass family, memberships at thebassshed.com are now available. Stop by the website, thebassshed.com. Check out the different memberships, and you can use the promo code POD1, that is POD and the number 1, for your first month free. All right, as I mentioned, my guest on the episode is Trish Imbrogno, a double bassist with a deep classical training and background and history, and then pivoted into bluegrass and Americana. It's a very, very interesting story. She has worked with a lot of fantastic musicians. She has a new EP out titled Bluegrass Love Songs Volume 1. It features some incredible musicians, and it's I'm really inspired by the depths in which Trish goes to really get the genre, to really absorb the genre. That's really inspiring to me. And here it is. Here's my talk with double bassist and recording artist Trish Imbrogno. Trish, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, happy to be here.
You have a fascinating story. You went to school as you're a double bassist.
I am.
Yeah, let's start with that. You went to school and got a degree in classical performance, correct?
Correct. And you said I'm a double bassist. I'm only a double bassist. I don't play any electric bass. I'm very terrible at it.
Let's hit pause on where I was going. Let's stop there. What's been your time on the electric bass, and then at what point were you like, yeah, that's not my thing?
Well, I kind of wish it was my thing. So right there, I'd get more gigs. But no, I played in a rock band in high school, heavy metal stuff. And
Sure.
When I started studying classically in college, it eats a lot of your time. You have 5 hours your day in a practice room, and it was just kind of it wasn't possible. And then the focus became only classical music, and it just fell by the wayside.
Yeah, okay. So then nowhere along the travels, it got back into the lexicon of bass playing?
Never picked it back up.
No?
I mean, I own a bunch, thinking I am going to pick it back up.
So you own more than one, and you don't play at all?
I own 3, and I don't play at all.
Okay, well, what do you got? What's the gear?
So I just have an acoustic, I think it's a Dean. They're all just they're not really great basses.
Sure.
And then, what is it? They're a European company. They make really kind of cheap cost instruments, but they're great instruments. Harley Benton.
I know of the brand.
Yeah. So nothing really extravagant. And then I bought in a thrift store one time a bass that has a daisy bottom, like it looks like a daisy. So
Really?
it's That's
unique.
It's really cute. It's a short scale. I think it's a kid's bass.
What's the name on the headstock?
I have no idea.
All right.
I'm not a gearhead. I'll start there. I'm
Okay.
definitely not a gearhead.
Okay. All right. So back to where we were going. You went to school as a classical major, uh, and then you finished your studies, right? You got the degree,
I have a
correct?
degree in classical bass performance.
Mm-hmm. Where did you go? Where did you get your degree from?
Went to Duquesne University in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
It's not a conservatory. It's a private Catholic university. Down the road is Carnegie Mellon University, which is a conservatory. But I studied with the same teacher that
Okay.
taught at that school, Jeff Turner, who was principal bass of the Pittsburgh Symphony at the time. And
Nice.
great pedagogue, amazing player.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What kind of were you just going through all the normal kind of stuff, playing excerpts, going through the paint by numbers,
All the
technique and
paint by
methods?
numbers.
Yeah,
That's it. Yep, the Simandl method,
sure.
the Carl Flesch scale book,
Hmm.
every excerpt, Beethoven 5, Beethoven 9, um, you know, you name it. If it's on the list,
Right, right.
it
You
was in the
played
book.
through it. Yeah.
Yep.
And then while you're going to school, you were picking up gigs on the folk Americana scene, right?
So it was actually after I graduated and like was out playing classically for many years,
Okay.
and I had moved and come back and was playing classically in Pittsburgh again in some regional orchestras, and then I got asked to start playing Americana music in 2008, I guess is when that started. So I was gigging classically and then also doing the Americana thing on the side.
Now coming from the classical thing, which is its own beast and heavy attention given to not only the left hand but what you're doing with the bow, and now you're in music that isn't anything like you really don't need, you could technically speaking, what's required to play in Americana music is a fraction of what it takes to get through a lot of those excerpts and method books you just spoke about.
As far as the left hand goes,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
What was that
And
shift like?
I overplayed all the time. All the time. I knew where all the notes were, and man, did I want to play them.
Yeah,
And especially when I was playing bluegrass, I'd go to these jams. It was the old timers in the circle, and they would just side eye me. Like,
yeah,
what is she doing?
yeah.
And everybody's too nice to be like, stop it. But
Right, right.
you pick up the cues, along the way. That like, oh, I should play a little less. So yeah, so I eventually dialed it back, but that was definitely coming out of that. The shift was the hardest.
Yeah.
Yeah, to stay
How
out of the way.
how'd you process that? How'd you process like because in your mind you're aware of the wide range of knowledge you have and the technique you have on the instrument. And then you're like, really? You're vibing me out because I'm playing too good? Like, what was that process like for you internally? Was it first like kind of frustrated with them?
Yeah, it was a little frustrating because there's a little ego involved, right? Well,
Sure.
like I spent all this time learning this how to do this, and
Right.
like I should be an elevated player against that person that's over there that can't even like form a
Right.
hand shape,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
want
yeah.
that person to play and not me. I don't understand.
Right.
So it took a little while to to kick the ego out of the way and realize like I'm learning a completely different genre that I know
Right.
very little about. I know a lot about classical music, and I need to figure out what's going on over here.
Where did you go? I mean, besides the jam sessions you mentioned, where'd you go to get informed about this? Were you reading a lot about the major personalities in the music, buying a bunch of albums? Uh,
I was listening more than I was reading,
hmm
and going out and seeing live music, and then locally live music, different. I say old timer bands, but like they're the more traditional bluegrass bands in the
Sure.
area, and the folk and Americana bands, and really the nationally touring folks too, and buying recordings was a little bit of the process. But I also really liked people like Chris Wood and Edgar Meyer, so like I'm still hearing this like
Right.
American music with this crazy bass on it. So
Yeah.
like it still was like, well, why can't I do that? But I'm also not Edgar Meyer or Chris Wood, so I realized that pretty quickly too, that those guys are, I think, from another planet.
Yeah,
So
it's
you know,
so insane. It's so
so that
insane.
I think that's kind of was like the point where I started to dial it back, where I was like, look, I can't do what these guys are doing,
Mhm.
and there's this thing that's happening that seems to really be working in this genre, and I should really dial this way. And the more I did that, the better the music sounded. So it just took some time to get there.
Right. And now, structurally on the instrument, what'd you do your setup? How'd you set up the bass different?
I didn't set it up too differently.
Okay.
I kept the string action pretty low. I did change my strings. I put helicore hybrids on
Okay.
instead of, bel cantos or, whatever $500 set of strings I was playing classically. And then I ended up buying a couple more basses that weren't great basses. I mean, they're great basses, but they're plywood basses. You never take them to Carnegie Hall and play them unless you're playing with Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs at Carnegie Hall. So yeah, I definitely bought into some new instruments, and then at the time I was still playing my classical bass though. So, playing classically, switched the strings, they worked.
Really, you were changing your strings that much?
No, just I flipped them. I
just the one
from
time.
The classical, yeah.
What was it that was the allure to classical playing initially?
So I think about this a lot. I thought it was the only thing I could do. And I got really good really quickly. And that's relative. I was still pretty bad at the time. But
looking back, you always think like, really? People asked me to play? When you think back on your career and different times in your journey.
Right. Well, I didn't start till middle school on the bass. So it was going actually middle school into high school.
Okay.
And I happened to take these summer lessons with the orchestral director of my high school, and she's a violinist, so I'm holding my bow like this, and she has me playing around the bass. But the book she gave me, which was one of just a high school method book, I played through the entire book in the first week.
Oh wow!
Of lessons, and she was like, "Well, what else do you play? You play violin or something?" And I was like, "No, I don't. This is my first string instrument." So I progressed fast enough that I started to get into some complicated music pretty early.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh, maybe this is something I can do.
Right.
I was going to be a physical therapist. Like I was accepted to college into a physical therapy program. And then I started to get into like state orchestra and regional orchestra and these, bigger things. And I was like, I think I'm going to make a right turn and go into music. And my parents almost died.
Yeah, right.
I still think they are wondering how I'm not homeless. But they were super worried, but they let me go and do it. And but classical music was what I was playing, and that was the track, and the teachers I was meeting along the way and seeing were all these great pedagogues in classical music. And so I went that direction, and that's kind of how I ended up in it. I don't know that I ever really loved it. Is that really terrible to say? Like it was a thing I did, and I liked doing it. I really did.
Sure.
I liked. But I when I started playing other genres, I was like, man, I wish I would have known about this so much sooner.
Right. Was that kind of a major crossroads to come to? Like, I should love this. I've spent a bunch of time and money and personal investment into this thing, like, but I don't love it. Like,
Yeah, it was really a point where I was like, did I make a mistake doing this?
Yeah.
But and I think about that a lot, is if I wouldn't have found, a new genre to move into and actually liked it and dived in, would I still be playing classically? Would I be miserable? Like what would be going on in that world? Would I have hung it up completely and just not done it anymore? Because there's so many players I know that just don't play anymore classically. They've sold their basses, they go on to get a career as a lawyer or whatever, and they're just like, I'm done. So that crossroads, I'm glad I made the turn and did it, because I love playing music.
Right. So it kind of just ran its course. The classical.
It sure did. It was a little bit of a burnout. Like people burn out in their careers. I think it was a burnout, and
I mean, I think that happens a lot. Just burnout in general. Like freelance classical playing is not a part of my career, but I think in everything, like, you do it long enough and you do it enough that it all becomes the exact same, and you're just like, this isn't what it felt like when I started playing. There's not the excitement to play. It's just, you just show up and you just do the job, and And maybe some people, it's not that for them. I found myself there, and maybe you did playing classical. It's just like there's got to be more than this out there.
Absolutely, and it was regional orchestras. I wasn't playing in a top 10 making six figures. So it
Hmm.
was, drive 2 hours, play a 3 hour rehearsal, drive home 2 hours,
Oof.
learn the music for the next whatever hour drive or 2 hour
Right.
drive, or, and then it was, the orchestras are always too big for the stages. So the basses are in the curtain in the back, and it was just so much stuff that
Sure.
to your point, time after time, it was just like I was dialing it in and like, okay, like what's in the folder this week? It's,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
where do I have to, what do I have to work on this week? And
Yeah.
just not really,
Exactly. It's just like,
invested, I
yeah,
guess.
when I was doing just a lot of freelance stuff here in LA, it's just like, okay, what bass do I need? What's the costume? Is it necktie or bow tie? Like, let's just go. It's all the same. Let's just go do it.
Yeah.
How do you speak to students about burnout and navigating burnout?
So, I don't teach a lot, but the
Hmm.
people when I do teach, I immediately tell them to diversify their portfolio, right? Like
Yeah.
whatever they're coming to me for, if they're coming to me for classical instruction, I'm going to show them fiddle tunes. If they're coming to me for bluegrass or Americana, I'm going to get them reading music so they have that skill set, right? So
Right.
that they can do something else and they're informed that it's out there. Like,
Yeah.
hey, did you know? Like, I know you're coming for this, but don't hesitate to veer right. And especially fiddle tunes, man. Like, I wish instead of excerpt books, someone would have given me a bunch of fiddle tunes and said, play these. There's string crossings, like the articulation, the bow patterns. Those are
Right.
so difficult. And then instead you're just playing through like weird scale patterns and
Right. Right. Right.
what
Yeah.
page 62 and 63 of the Samandal book with all the triplets and,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. I didn't even have like the Samandal book memorized. It's funny that you can reference that deep. I know enough to not do any more Samandal.
Same. I
Yeah.
do go back and practice a little bit so I can continue to read, but
Yeah.
not
Um, is that's, I mean, it didn't seem like reading would be a big part of the Americana world, just like a lot of chord charts at best.
a lot of chord charts.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is if somebody does write something out, like, hey, I really want this line,
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
I can absolutely play that line for them.
Right. Right.
It isn't prescribed very often, but if someone really wants it, it's all right.
Oh,
You
yeah.
got it.
Do you still check in with the classical technique studies, not just the Samandal thing, but keeping the bow in shape and doing all that stuff?
I took my bow out for the first time in a year about a week ago,
Okay.
but to your point, to check in, I was like, man, I got to do this. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
you start to lose the dexterity, and yeah, it became pretty obvious that I was
yeah.
rusty. I was rusty. 'Cause you do it for 25, 30 years. You're like, I got this. I can pick it up anytime,
Sure.
and it goes much more quickly than it
Right.
than
Then
it
you,
came along.
yeah, 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 exactly. So getting into the bluegrass nature of things, let's pick this up in our timeline. You graduated, then you're like a classical bassist who's going to the jams and getting plugged in. When did that really become a full-time thing?
So it was 2018 was when I took my last orchestral contract,
Okay.
and what was happening was by the time the contracts would come out for the season, I was booked for those weekends playing gigs with bands.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm not going to give up this gig over here that I really like doing
Right.
for this thing that I'm starting to figure out that I'm probably not really invested in anymore.
Did you weigh I'm sure you weighed the financials of it, like, okay, the contract will be this versus like, okay, I got this run of gigs and most likely I'll pick up more, so
Absolutely.
yeah,
And what I learned when I started doing that math with all the driving for the orchestral stuff, all the work I was putting into the music,
sure.
you're making a lot less per hour
Right.
than another genre that because of my background, I think because my background in music was so strong that I could pick up this quote unquote simpler music, and I don't mean that in a bad way,
Sure.
because it's highly difficult, the intricacies of bluegrass and the counterpoint.
Yeah.
But harmonically, it was like, well, this is easy. Like I can pick these tunes up much quicker than I can
Right.
over here. So it definitely was weighing out that I could fit more gigs in, and sometimes there were higher paying gigs per hour than I was doing on the other side of the house.
Bluegrass is secretly a very nuanced, well, it's not secretly nuanced, but it's difficult because of the nuance. The misconception is that it's easy. It's not. It's nuanced, and all those nuances are so particular that if someone's not doing it right, it sticks out. It's incredibly noticeable. How was it making that shift and understanding, like, you know, you either play what's on the page, right, with three other folks, but now it's all on you, and this idea of like rock solid time feel is now generated by you instead of your time field being dictated by a conductor.
I learned I have actually pretty good timing, and I'm
Great.
going to thank Jeff Turner for that.
Okay.
I used to go in with a drumstick my freshman year in a percussion book
Yeah.
and tap out rhythm
Okay.
patterns to a metronome.
Great.
And through my entire college career, and I mean, my entire career, I never practiced without a metronome.
Yeah.
So I had a really good foundation. But finding that I was in charge of that was tricky because if I was playing with people, it's like, well, wait, they're moving. Am I supposed to move with them? The mandolin player is pushing a little. The guitar solo is dragging a little. Like what do I do? So it took some time to figure out how that works
Yeah.
in keeping the ensemble together and not being kind of like a dictator
Right.
of the time, because it turns into shoes in a dryer.
Right.
You know, like
I feel like that should be the name of the next single.
it might be
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
shoes in a dryer.
yeah.
That's actually, I describe, sometimes I go out and see music and I'm like, ugh,
Yeah, that's
pretty
hilarious.
shoes in a dryer. But you know exactly what it sounds like, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there was some of that, you know, in at first, you know, I was like, oh, it's my job. It's my job. And then the more you play the genre and talk to pros and talk to people, they're like, no, it's not your job.
Right.
It's everybody's job. And it's not your job to keep everybody in time. Everybody needs to have good time together as the ensemble. So it did take some time to navigate that. And off the page, man, I didn't know what to play harmonically. You know, I had theory training, but I was analyzing piano scores. Like there wasn't a lot of practical application in classical music back to the bass. So, you know, someone's telling me, well, the changes are E, A, D, G. I'm like, cool. What do I play between
Yeah,
them?
yeah. Besides that, what else
Besides
happens?
that,
Yeah, right.
and even just remembering changes, like I would on a piece of paper write E, A, D, G because I wasn't quite sure I was going to remember what order those changes went in. So that took some time. My ear wasn't necessarily great because you don't really have to listen for changes in the classical world. You play what's on the page, and yes, harmonically you're listening, like you know that okay, that's going to go to a 5 of the chord, but you don't have to know to go with that because it's on the page. So
Right.
it's a very passive exercise in another genre where if I hear someone playing a 1/7, I know we're going to the 4 now
Exactly.
in the chorus, right?
Right.
So, but that was a whole retraining of the theory that I knew and how to actually apply it.
And I mean, just how often, like the tradition of bluegrass and country music is similar to jazz in the sense of like, okay, what is this an adaptation of? Like, okay, this is going to be a blues, but we hang on one for an extra 4 bars before we go to, and you start to see these reoccurring patterns. Whereas within the classical form, you're maybe not thinking about that.
Right. I mean, like you have the recapitulation, like in a
Right.
symphony, and I mean, you have those types of things, but again,
Yeah.
does it really
Right,
matter?
right, right.
Like if you don't know that's where you're going because you have to go there anyway, it's
Right.
like it's dictated to you.
Yeah, yeah. The analysis is kind of on the back end if you choose to look behind the curtain, versus you just have to know it otherwise when you're playing these tunes. And did it cause you to just go back and, I don't want to say understand the blues, but get into a lot of that form and that tradition when learning bluegrass?
Yep, I'm still doing it. Like I feel like my theory is still slow compared to other people, right? Like I think it's good. I don't think it's bad, but like, there are people whose ears are like, oh, there's like, they can
Yeah.
chart something so fast, and I'm still sitting, it takes me a little time to do that. But just listening and hearing those changes and plunking around on the instrument helped there. And then listening to those genres over and over. And I still take some lessons, like I just took some lessons last week with Mark Schatz. And, we did a bunch of blues licks and patterns on the upright, and
Okay.
having that connection to somebody and seeing it and kinesthetically doing it now it's stuck. So it's really easy once you're doing it to do it.
Right.
But sometimes it takes, I think it's my classical brain maybe, it takes someone really being like, here's how you do it. And I'm like, oh, here's how I did it. I've been doing that, but I didn't really know that's what I was doing. And now that I know, it's really an application forward now.
Right. How does your mind process music? Does it process, well, not just music, but maybe the world in a more structured way? Was that easy to connect with classical music because of the structure? And then you get into bluegrass, which is, it's kind of a street music. It's this kind of folkloric thing that's just passed down with no formal training, no publications. It's just, you just know it kind of, and you just know it by doing it.
Well,
It's
I
more
mean,
experience based than
yeah.
academic, I
How
guess.
most bass players' minds work is 1-5.
Right,
One.
right, right. Yeah.
But no, it's I mean, and there are patterns, in the various in forms of tunes, like fiddle tunes. Is it A A B B? Is it A B? Is it, the instrumentals are often set up like that. And then
Sure.
again with the changes, it they're similar, right? Like
Yeah.
the melodies sometimes are what change a song in bluegrass.
Right.
There are times where I'm playing the exact same progression
Sure.
under two songs, like length of measures, length of phrases, but the melody has changed now, and it's
Right.
exactly the same thing. So, but the nuances in that, back to the nuances of bluegrass, are what you have to listen for and start to learn. And there are people that are born with a banjo in their hand. These
Yeah.
kids start playing when they're 6 and 7 years old, and that is totally like internalized in them. They've grown up around it. They've been playing it. They love it. They just often don't know anything but that.
Right.
And here I come like, turning like, oh, that 8-year-old kid's like crushing me over there. But
Right.
but again, through just doing it and sitting down, analyzing it, writing it out. I like to write things out. I
Okay.
have to hear it, see it, do it. I have to really you know, learn in all three capacities
Sure.
for it to really stick.
Yeah.
So, being out playing is invaluable.
Mhm.
Stepping in it, if I make a mistake once, I don't make it again,
Right, right.
like,
Right, right.
especially in a setting where it matters. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I
so,
mean, it's there's not a lot to hide behind,
right. And,
you
and I
know.
think that's part of it, like nobody comes into it perfect, and I've stepped in it more than once, and
Sure.
I can recover and come back out of it, and but again, that's the learning moment, right?
Hmm.
Like I can do it in my house all I want or behind a camera all I want, but until I'm in the moment and my nerves are up and I'm playing with really great players and I'm like, oh my God, don't play the 5. Oh, I just played the 5.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah. So
You mentioned playing, multiple tunes that could be the exact same form and changes. How do you personally stay engaged without, in the music, without kind of checking out? Like, oh, here we go. Like, let me
yeah,
get through this 12
it,
bars or whatever
yeah.
it might be.
And I see people like that in
Sure.
my genre, right? But to the point of like me in a classical music, I think
Right.
they've just done it so long and they're just like, oh, here's that lick again. Here's that lick again. But I think it's still so new to me, and I know I have so much to learn. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I'm not dialed in. I'm not cashing it in every time I'm coming. Like every time I approach the music, I'm like, okay, this is the tune, the kicks, like I'm still thinking through it. It's internalized and I know it, but it's not something I can just show up and do. So I think that's what keeps me really in interested in a simple form, is that
Okay.
it's, and honestly knowing like exactly those nuances, right? Like am I playing on a little on the front of the beat of this tune, or am I laying back? Is it a little swung? Is it who's going to push, who's going to pull? You have to be there for this music. Me personally, I guess maybe down the road I can tune it out and just do it, but I still am really like diving in, and I feel like I'm ankle deep in this genre right now.
Okay.
I got a long way to go to get to some of like the great players that are out there. So
what do you think are the topics or characteristics of the music or within the genre and characteristics of your playing that you think you need to get a better handle on to get more into it? Like what would that be for you?
I am a terrible slap bass player.
Me too. But I'm not interested in it. I was showing it to a student the other day, just that it exists, and I'm like, yeah, I don't do it. Like I'm out.
Kind of, I'm there, like,
Yeah.
because there are people that do it way better than I do in way better time.
Yeah.
And it would take me so long, I think,
When
to
people
catch
do
up.
it, I love it.
Oh, it's so good
Yeah.
when it's good.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Yeah,
I
with everything, but yeah. But when it's really happening, that's really happening.
Right.
But I'm not interested enough to like practice it.
Same.
Yeah.
And then, that right hand technique is still something that I'm working on overall. Soloing, like how do I really build a good bluegrass solo, other than playing over arpeggios or
Right.
playing the melody for 4 bars and then just noodling around. What really makes a good bluegrass bass solo? And listening to different people and figuring out how to build those. And I usually do this when someone points at me. I'm still
Yeah, you just
not
deny.
not really comfortable yet. Like I'm like until everybody stops playing and I have to take the break.
Yeah.
But that's I'm just kind of like, it's really not my job. You're all supposed to be floating on me. Like you guys
Okay.
do that. If
Yeah.
if I have to take a solo where it's in like the original arrangement of the tune, all right, I'll do it. But
Not a lot of
out of my
interest
comfort zone.
to bring the bow into that and do some arco solos.
Yeah, I did for a while. I actually when I got a Shen plywood bass in
Okay.
2018. This got my first like good plywood bass. And
Okay.
the luthier I work with, who's outside of Pittsburgh, he works on mostly classical basses. And so he said, how do you want it set up? Do you want it set up, like your orchestra bass? And I was like, well, here's what I'm going to do with it.
No.
I'm going to learn fiddle tunes with the bow. That was
Great.
my whole goal was going in. I was going to learn fiddle tunes with the bow. So he set it up, pretty low action, and and then I learned about 3 fiddle tunes with my bow,
Okay.
and then I was like, I need to work on my pizzicato. What I mean? Like, it was just one of those things where I was like, okay, I think I need to keep working on the stuff I'm not good at. So,
Right.
so that was my foray into it, and then it wasn't really in demand.
Mhm.
Like the folks I'm playing with aren't like, oh, take your bow out and do a break, and
Sure.
so I just haven't done it in a little while.
I
And
also
then,
think other people don't know to think of it or request it. Like they don't think it's an option for whatever reason. Like Bo sticks in classical world and Bo doesn't come into this world. So they don't even think about it to inquire.
I feel like it's been creeping in a
Yeah.
little more. You get these players that are coming from like conservatory trained or jazz backgrounds, and there's a lot more bow in the bass
Hmm.
in music, Americana music now than I think there
Sure.
ever was.
Yeah.
And for a while, it was a novelty, right? Like if you could play a solo on your bow, like it was like whoa, like.
Right.
And now it's it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, oh, you have training, you probably could
Yeah,
play
yeah,
a
yeah, you
solo
could
on
probably
the bow.
do it.
We'll be back right after this.
All right, I'm super excited about this, folks. The Bass Shed has partnered with Woodcraft Guitars to create the Woodshed Bass. This is a custom, vintage-inspired bass with the working bassist in mind. Meaning, it has a lot of latitude, right? It can go a lot of places. You can get a lot of different sound colors out of this bass. Again, the Woodshed Bass. Check it out at thebassshed.com. All right, folks, the Craft Geek capsule music stand. That's right. It's right here in this little bag. It's right here in this little bag. This music stand is an upgrade I didn't even know I need. Use the promo code SHED15 and pick up your capsule music stand today. lemurmusic.com. lemurmusic.com. Everything you need for the double bass can be found at lemurmusic.com. Bows, books, rosin, practice accessories, practice resources, sheet music, whatever it is you need for the double bass, lemurmusic.com. Use the promo code TheBassShed, all one word, for 10% off.
Excellent, sir.
Before we talk about your latest single, which I do want to talk about, one more thing just between that I'm interested in with the crossover from classical that you referenced a second ago was talking about feels and am I playing on top, or how much, to what degree does this swing? What was your process to start to deal with those elements of the music and those elements of playing bass?
I think going into it, I didn't know what it, like that I was supposed to even be aware of it. Right? Like, again, coming off a conductor, you just kind of play with the person you're playing with. And then it became, everything was just center of the beat, right? Okay, well, here I am. I'm the metronome. I'm keeping the center of the beat.
Right.
And then it turned into, I need to ask people, how they, how do we want this to feel, right? Because again, it's not about me.
Yeah. And center of the beat feels awful. In a lot of genres of music, like if it's like an R&B pocket thing and you're playing it down the middle, no, that's uncomfortable. It needs to lay back more. If it's a swing thing, middle of the beat feels like you're dragging.
Right, and there's in bluegrass there are tunes where it lays a little on the back of the beat. It isn't always on the front of the beat, so it's just a matter of understanding how the ensemble you're playing with wants to do that tune. Is it straight ahead drive, front of the beat? You want a little swing? You want to, what's the feel you guys want? Because honestly, if the bass isn't doing it, to your point, center of the beat, it's not happening. Everybody else can be swinging that tune, and if you're not, it's just gonna stink. So
do you verbally
shoes in the dryer?
Do you there it is. Do you verbally ask the questions, or you kind of just rely on whatever the melody is doing? Not as far as on top or behind, because usually the melody is going to be behind to kind of lay back on what everybody else is doing, but specifically referring to the sense of swing. If
it's people I play with a lot, I listen because I know how they play. I know what they're going to do. I know how they're probably going to approach that tune. And if they don't within the first, 45 seconds, I know I'm like, oh, okay, we're doing it this way this time.
Right.
But if I get into a group, I'm actually playing a gig this weekend with people I don't normally play with.
Okay.
No rehearsals. We're just going to go cold into this thing. I'm probably going to be like, how are we doing this? Give me an idea of how you guys approach these tunes. Is there anything I need to know that isn't pretty standard to a recording? So, that's, to me, I think is important just to have that communication up front if you're not in that ensemble all the time.
Right. Let's talk about the new single you just released. The single is titled "Think of What You've Done." You wrote the lyrics and the music for this, correct?
I didn't write any of it. Nope, it's a traditional bluegrass song.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yep.
Who was the first recording?
Oh boy, I'm going to get it wrong. So it's a Carter Stanley wrote it.
Okay.
From the Stanley Brothers, and I think it was recorded in 1946.
Okay.
Was the first recording from the Stanley Brothers. And anybody can comment on this and tell me I'm wrong. It's 1940 something. I think it's 46. So it's really like a quintessential bluegrass standard.
Okay.
And it kind of fits the theme of Bluegrass Love Songs.
Okay, it shows how much I know about bluegrass repertoire, by the way. I don't know the standards in that in that style. What was the impetus to do this song specifically?
So, and I decided I was going to record, and I decided I was going to record because my discography is pretty long. But if you search my name, you can't find me because none of it is mine.
Right.
And I was like, I think it's time to just put something out that is under my own name.
Sure.
And for years, I've just sung these what I call bluegrass love songs, right? Which means you get dumped, you get murdered and tossed in a river. You get, I mean, it's like, you know, it's
Oh,
like
is
all
there a
this,
song about being murdered and dumped in a river?
oh, the banks of the Ohio. Actually, there's a lot of songs about that in bluegrass.
Really?
Oh, yes. It is dark and beautiful melodies,
What river are they
dark
referring to?
lyrics.
Like the Mississippi or something? Like where's all
The
these?
banks of the Ohio River.
Oh,
I
okay.
asked my love to take a walk. That's how they always start. They go for a walk and they end up,
Wow.
yeah. So,
Jeez.
so it's
It's a
a little
true
bit of
crime documentary written all over it, right?
yeah, it's like it is true crime.
Yeah.
Usually they, you know, at the end there's, you know, some retribution from the law of some kind. But
Okay.
but I've just, you know, I've always found those songs fascinating because the melodies are lovely. They sound like love songs. And then you
Well,
start
it's
to
all
listen
fun
to
and
the
games
words.
until you're dead and dumped in a river, you know?
Right, but you start to listen to the lyrics, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, this is not the song I thought it was. So,
Right.
you know, so when I was like, well, what am I going to put together on this recording? I was like, well, how about Bluegrass Love Songs? And I always say that volume one is where everybody stays alive. Like they're just
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
just
yeah,
the
yeah.
lost love. They're the, you know, the getting
Yeah.
dumped, the, you know, whatever, you know,
Sure.
getting cheated on, all those ones. You know, it's the volume two
Yeah,
are the real dark ones. So
that's where it
um,
goes south.
yeah, so the volume one, and then I thought this really set the tone. Like it's you know, darling, think of what you done. Like, is it true that I've lost you? I'm not the only one. Like it's kind of a really basic like lost love breakup song.
Right.
So, you know, it was kind of, I thought it was a good one to come out of the gate with. And it's a known standard and it's a good drive and has a good feel.
It does. It does. It's a very nice recording. To talk a little bit more about the tune, I don't know about this, but is the weight of the topics you just mentioned about murder and apparently dumping them in rivers, everything's a mafia hit in bluegrass music. Is
Yeah,
that like
kind of, yeah.
is that because I know, you know, so much of this music fundamentally was based around spirituals. Is that to counterbalance that at some point when the music went quote unquote secular, it just now we're dumping bodies in rivers?
I don't know that it was a necessarily a response. You know,
Okay.
these a lot of these songs are just really, I think, storylines that have
Sure.
been the truth. You know, like three
That's
chords in the
even
truth is
darker.
what. Well, yeah, I don't know about the actual murder ones, but you know,
Yeah.
like you know, the getting dumped, the getting cheated on. Like
Sure.
I feel like, you know, there's some truth to some of these or
Of course.
storylines or something that's happened to somebody that where these songs came from.
Yeah.
You know,
Strong personal narrative involved.
correct. And that's a
Yeah.
lot of bluegrass actually. You know, like, you know, Bill Monroe wrote about his home place and he literally that was his home place. You know, like a lot of the what you see in a bluegrass song visually, if you're doing that with the lyrics,
Sure.
is real.
Yeah.
So so I don't know if it was a true counterbalance to,
Okay.
you know, all of the church and
Right.
gospel
Right.
bluegrass or not.
The quote unquote sacred foundations of all that stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Because there's still a lot of that in bluegrass too.
Sure. Sure.
I don't know that the balance is, I think it's still probably weighted even more to
The
the
sacred
gospel
side.
spiritual side. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple records that I like that are in that vein. There's a Ricky Skaggs record called Soldier of the Cross. I don't know if you've heard that record. It's a great record. It's like everybody's playing on it is killing.
Yep. Ricky Skaggs doesn't play with a slouch. Like
Yeah,
his bands
yeah.
are always so good. I mean, he could play Mary Had Little Lamb and it would
Right. It would
be
be
amazing.
happening. um, have you gone down to the South to like really kind of try to put yourself in that culture?
Yeah, I'm a Yankee playing bluegrass, right?
Yeah.
So about 2021, right after the pandemic, like kind of, well, actually what I found out in the South, I don't think the pandemic ever happened. Because when I started to
I
go
don't
there,
even think of things in terms of like Yankee or not. Like Southern California, we're all just surfing and drinking, you know,
um,
some fruity
right,
beverage. Yeah.
right. But you know, I went down, I started to go to Nashville and I was like, I should go and immerse myself at least a few times a year and get whooped and
Hmm.
like get kicked around by people who really know what they're doing in this music.
Right. And they
And
don't know
then
anything else about music.
Well, some of
Well, I
them
mean,
do, but
I'm not saying that they're dense. I'm saying that they haven't pursued, uh, potentially haven't pursued other styles.
yes,
Like this is their commitment.
yep, there's
That's
a
what I meant
large
by that.
contingent of those folks.
Yeah.
And there's also the folks that studied jazz and ended up in Nashville and all that kind of stuff too, and are playing bluegrass. But the folks who have been playing this their whole lives, man, they've got the groove, and it's just like in them, and they just know how it feels, and like, you know, it made all the difference in the world. Like, and I started by going like I'd go for like 5 days, and I'd go to like 2 or 3 jams, and then I'd go for 10 days, and I'd go to twice as many jams, and then now I go for maybe 3 weeks at a time,
Okay. You
and I go
picking
to
up work down there too?
a little bit, like once in a while. I don't live in town, right? So like part of me is like I don't want to come to town and take other people's work who live in town because it's
Sure.
not cheap to live in Nashville. But I do have some friends who like when I'm in town, they're like, "Oh, let's play a gig."
Okay.
So occasionally I'll take a gig while I'm down there, but it's more for me just to get down and continue to play up to people that have been doing this for so long that they know it so well, that
What have you noticed about how they play there versus where you're at?
man, it's kind of hard to describe. It's just the feel of the music. It's so authentic that I don't know that like folks in the North that haven't done this for so long, or anywhere really. I use the North because it's like, it was definitely a delineation line, but
Right.
it just doesn't have the same feel, and it's really in their souls, I feel like, and that's just the music that exudes from their hands when they play, or their vocal cords. It's really hard to describe.
Yeah. Have you gone like deep south, like Alabama?
I haven't done that yet,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking, I should probably do some Kentucky trips and some Alabama
Yeah.
trips. And
I'd be curious just the difference between cities within the South.
well, that's, and Bluegrass started out pretty regionally too, because
Right.
of the way the radio stations were, they could only broadcast this far. So there were these bands in this area and these bands in this area. And so there is a regional feel. I mean, even around Pittsburgh, we've got our regional feel of bluegrass up here. There's certain tunes that we do in Pittsburgh that I'll go to other places. I'll be like, oh, you want to do the Cherokee Shuffle? Like, they're like, oh, yeah, we don't play that a lot here.
Right.
But we play it every jam in Pittsburgh. Like, it's just like a standard jam tune in our area.
Right.
So that regional feel is also kind of cool to see what's that repertoire. Like, what are these people playing when they get together? And, what's a standard in their head versus what we consider, as our
Sure.
kind of jam standards.
Yeah. When you come back from these trips and you're back now in Pittsburgh, you're playing, do you find yourself having to adjust back to the Pittsburgh sense of time feel? Or are you trying to like really be like, I'm gonna hold on to this Nashville thing. I don't want to bend on that.
Yes to both. So
Okay.
I have to bend, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna come back and impose my
Sure.
original, like, I'm right vibe. But I also talk to the people that I play with, and I'm like, look, like, we should think about doing it this way. Like, let's try this. Like, let's see if we can make it feel like this. Let's, to see if we can kind of get closer to that more authentic feel of bluegrass.
Right, right. Where would be like if you had to kind of think of a few places that are like, that's it. That's the mecca of where this music comes from and what it should feel like, and that's it. Like if you were gonna relate it to jazz and talking about, well, it's got to be New York. Like that's where bebop came from. So you got to have that thing to make it sound like that. Where
Yeah,
would
I
be
mean,
the targeted place?
well, I mean, Kentucky's where the old home place is, right? Like, that's
Uh-huh.
where Bill Monroe is from, and that's where kind of the Bluegrass Boys started, and like the name of Bluegrass State, bluegrass music. That's
Oh,
where
is
it all
that
came
it? Is that
from.
really where that came from? I never
Yep.
knew that.
Yep.
Kentucky's the bluegrass state?
It is.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
And then you
Interesting.
get a little bit of like, Southern Ohio a little bit, Indiana a little bit, like right around Kentucky, like there's some pockets there, but Kentucky's kind of the epicenter.
Okay.
Um, and there's a lot of festivals there in the summer. there's also a lot of fiddlers conventions, like more east, right? Like in Virginia, there's a ton of, fiddle conventions that are, heavily old time and bluegrass based. In North Carolina. So, again, regionally, there's a big pocket there, there's a big pocket in Virginia. But I mean, if you want to talk about where like the ground zero was, it was Kentucky. So
Okay. So is that where people really kind of go to do the process that you've been on? Is like you go into other places? Do a lot of people migrate to Kentucky to?
I don't honestly know.
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah.
I picked Nashville because it was a city that I thought was pretty cool, and I knew there
Sure.
was a lot of bluegrass happening there. And I never really thought to like dig into another state, but you've now intrigued me that I should look at Kentucky for my next trip. But Owensboro, Kentucky is where the Bluegrass Hall of Fame is. So
Okay.
I've gone there a few times, and they have there's some jams there and events at the museum, and they have a big pick and party there, like the hotel next door every year. So there's still a lot of bluegrass happening there. I just don't think it's as maybe organized as some of the like bigger city regions.
As a bassist, who were some influential bassists within the genre? Because so many genres have their like Mount Rushmore of who's who
Yep.
that go along with it. I don't think bluegrass is regularly thought of to have the same acknowledgement of bass players that like Motown would or jazz would or studio guys or whatever.
Yeah, I think within the genre there is, right? Like, I mean, Bob Moore, who played, it was country, he was really a country guy in Nashville. But he was really like, when I started listening to this music, like someone's like, "Do you know who Bob Moore is?" And I was like, "No," and I thought they were going to hit me. So, I was like, "Okay, I got to listen to Bob Moore."
Yeah.
But then, there's folks like Roy Husky Jr. and Junior Husky, like they were original bass players and coming up through the scene. And there's some really strong players that came around when bluegrass was starting and when bluegrass was growing as a genre, And so listening to those folks has always been something that I'm not really good at, copycatting lines necessarily that they're playing, but for the feel
Yeah, yeah.
and kind of what are they playing or how much are they playing or
Right.
what are they doing?
Kind of getting a concept from them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there's more contemporaries, right? Like you have Marshall Wilborn, Tom Gray. Like, I mean, there's folks that have kind of defined what a bluegrass bass sound should be.
Okay. Do you know much about what their setup was? Were they playing gut strings? I
Oh,
actually
that's a
should
good
know, or if
question.
I did know, I don't remember when, steel strings and when they started wrapping them. I probably knew at one point, but I can't recall it right now.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody played solely guts like
Yeah.
but a lot of bass players, and I don't know if they still do this. They'll play steel strings on
E and A.
two and
Yeah.
gut strings on two, or gut strings on one and steel strings on three.
Yeah.
Um, but I think by the time these guys were all like when bluegrass was happening, I think steel strings were a thing.
Okay.
Again, I'm not a gearhead, so I don't
Right.
even know when steel strings were invented. I should probably know that too.
I'm more interested in
Um,
history than I am gear, so I would look that up
yeah,
just for the historical thing. Uh, and then how popular are flatbacks? Because I feel like a flatback is just going to project more.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, well, K basses were the big thing in
Right.
early Americana music, and that was because people were going into places like Kentucky and saying, "Oh, look at that nice German bass you have. Look at this shiny new K you can have for
Right.
trade your basses."
Yeah.
So K's kind of infiltrated the sound of bluegrass.
Hmm.
But before that was coming around, a lot of these guys were playing old German basses
Yeah.
and
It's
things
whatever they
that
could
were
kind of get their
whatever they could
hands
get their
on.
hands on. So I'm sure there were a bunch of flatbacks in that music.
Right. Right. It just seems to me like that. Have you experimented with playing a flatback and how it might project more or
I
cut in
haven't.
a mix?
I have not.
No.
No, mostly just, if I'm recording, am I using the plywood bass or am I using the good bass, right? Like the carved
Right.
bass.
Yeah, I did want to talk to you about that recording. What your recording process in relation to the single? What was your signal chain? What was your process to record?
So we tracked banjo, guitar, and bass together, mostly because of the proximity of the musicians. You know, 2 of them were in Nashville, and 3 of them were pretty close to Winchester, Virginia, where we recorded.
Okay.
So we had DC, and then Dee Dee's in DC, Murphy's in Winchester, and Murphy's son Christopher's who engineered it. So we actually recorded. Murphy has a studio in her house, so we recorded there with the 3 of us doing the core tracking.
Okay.
And then Becky Bowler, who's in Nashville, and Rainey Miyake, who's in Nashville, both tracked separately in Nashville. And then we, laid their parts on top.
Okay. Oh, and what'd you have on the bass? What was the mic setup?
What was the mic setup? So I was gonna run pickup and mic, and we experimented with some mics and the pickup and everything. And Christopher was like, let's do a mic. I don't know what mic we used.
Yeah.
I should probably know that too.
Yeah.
But we didn't mix signals. We didn't mix like a straight line out of the.
Okay.
It was all mic.
Yeah. I feel like that's a different sound. I mean, when recording the upright, I'm sure everybody has. I mean, I've had people like mic the fingerboard up by half in first position to get the hand sound there. I'm throwing another mic on my right hand. I got a 57 like wrapped in a paper towel in the tailpiece. The pickups go. It's all these mics going to try to figure out how to capture the sound of this instrument.
And I feel like they could just take a mic about 1.5 feet out from your F hole and
that's really the
bass
standard.
sounds like.
yeah, exactly.
I one time had someone, I got to tell this story. Like, it was a really expensive mic. It was like this little pencil mic about this long.
Okay.
And they suspended it inside of my center bridge hole with rubber bands.
Now, I know that they make mic pickups like that. Which one is it? I think, if I remember correctly, there's a bass pickup mic that is suspended between the 2 feet of the bridge. I think it's called Troll. But that's how you set it up. You just suspend it.
Well,
I've never
hung
played
this
it,
mic,
but yeah.
and then he told me how much it was worth, and I was like, "Are you sure you want to hang on my bass?"
Yeah, you're right. You sure you want to do that?
What if one of those rubber bands fails, and then every time I moved, it would move, and I was like, "I don't know how this is actually
how much faith you have in a rubber band."
Correct.
To hang whatever thousands of dollars worth of recording equipment
and me on top of it. So I was more worried about that.
What bass did you play? Did you play the Shen?
No, I played my orchestral bass, which is a Romano Solano.
Okay.
1994 Panormo copy of Jeff Turner's bass.
Okay.
So it's a big fat Italian sound and real meaty low end.
Okay.
Balanced high end. And I really struggled about which bass I was going to take, but I was like, I really like playing that bass when I'm nervous because the neck's a little narrower.
Okay, yeah.
So when my nerves are high, like which I knew going into this recording, I was going to be like a little on edge, and so I was like, I'm going to play the bass that's really easy for me to play, like even when I'm like a little tense. So, it worked. I think it sounds great on the recording. Christopher did a really good job of grabbing the sound and not making it too big either, because that's a lot of the struggle sometimes with that bass is it's really resonant and it's really full. So like cutting some of that out like is a little tricky sometimes.
Okay. Why the nerves?
The women I was recording with are like some legends in bluegrass, like really legendary players. So, I wanted to work with all women. And then I was like, well, I'm just going to call these people that I really admire and see if they'll do this recording with me. And they all said yes. And then I was like, uh-oh.
You were supposed to say yes.
Now I'm really nervous.
About making the call. I didn't really want to go through it.
Right. Now I'm really nervous. But like after a couple of like the first couple of takes, like it was cool. Like, it's just like, again, like that feel, they've been playing bluegrass like as long as I've almost been alive, you know what I mean? Like they've been playing, they're just legendary players and playing with Tony Trischka, and like Murphy wrote a book about women in bluegrass. She developed a whole way to teach the banjo. Becky Bowler was the first woman to win the IBMA Fiddle of the Year award.
Wow.
It's like,
what year was that?
Oh man, I don't know. It wasn't that long ago.
Like recent history.
Recent history.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a really male-dominated genre. So,
I feel like most are.
yeah,
Yeah, I
in
mean,
music, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Even classical,
I can't think of too many that aren't,
right.
you know.
Maybe church choirs.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, anything choral is probably not male dominated.
Yeah.
Uh, but instrumental, when there's instrumentalists involved, I think it's more
Yeah.
male
And
dominated.
it is almost every genre.
Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head that isn't. Well, it's cool that you did that and made a kind of social statement along with the
Yes.
recording.
And I play with men all the time. Like
Mm-hmm.
I play in bands with men all the time. So it was one of those things that I was just like, if I'm going to do this, I just want to do it with a group of women.
How, because they're so prolific and legendary within the genre, what was it like to lock in with them?
It's actually not very difficult. Like, Murphy and Dee Dee and I played through a couple of things and we're like, okay,
Yeah.
think we're good, and we were in close enough proximity to each other. We could kind of see each other's movements and which is helpful. Like if I listen to the banjo roll, if I can for sure see her thumb hitting that string, I know like I'm right with her. So
Okay.
there were some things like that even if I was unsure,
But
I had a good visual reference. But no, we locked in pretty quickly.
yeah, it seems like it would be easier because of their time within this genre and them really having a strong feel
Right, they
for
had
the
a really
music.
good, they had a really good groove to that between them, and then
Yeah.
I was able to kind of just slide in and be part of that groove.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's great. What else? What else is coming up?
so we have another single come off of that in September,
Okay.
an instrumental single. It's actually a little less dark. It is actually it's actually the Cherokee Shuffle.
Okay.
And so that is that's a Bluegrass Love Song to Pittsburgh because that's like
Okay.
our song of Pittsburgh. So when I was deciding what I was going to fill out these vocal tunes with, I was like, I think that's a good ode to Pittsburgh
Sure.
bluegrass, and,
Are
and I
you
really
building
do love the tune.
Are you building a collection to release as a collection, or just kind of doing singles when it works out to get together with the other members?
Yeah, so I did an EP. So we recorded 5 tracks,
Okay.
and I'm just releasing a couple of singles to to kind of put them in the world before I release the EP.
Yeah. Sweet. Sweet. What's the title of the EP?
Bluegrass Love Songs Volume 1.
There it is. Okay, I didn't get that from the people. I didn't get that information. Cool. Is there going to be a volume 2? Are you gonna go into the dark, unsolved mysteries
I am
portion?
thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
How would you? I mean, it's all future. None of this is locked in, but would you change the instrumentation to kind of give a darker mood to those darker tunes?
Um, I don't know. It's a pretty standard bluegrass instrumentation. Maybe I'd add a dobro,
Okay.
add a little resonator guitar for some slidey sound,
Yeah.
spooky slidey sound. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't
Alright.
I haven't thought heavily about it.
Yeah.
I want to recover. I want to recover from this one first.
How long did the process take to record it all?
We tracked the chord tracks in about 6 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
quick.
the guitar, banjo, bass, and vocals might have been 7 with vocals, but yeah, it was a pretty quick turnaround. And then Becky's session was, I think, 2 or 3 hours, and Rainey's was about the same. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. It's pretty efficient.
Yeah, I don't like doing 20 and 30 takes. Like if we're not hitting it in like 3
Yeah.
or 4 takes, like we probably shouldn't be doing it.
Have you found for yourself, like, does it take you a minute in the studio to kind of get settled and then like get into the feel of it? Or does it usually the first take's the best because you're kind of, there's an excitement to the first take that it won't be in the other ones?
It depends on the situation. Like if it's someone says, "Hey, I want you to record this track or these tracks," and they send me, their scratch tracks, and I've really worked on them.
Yeah.
I usually like the first take the best, unless I've space cadetted out and oh, whoops, I played a 4 instead of a 5 or whatever, right?
Right.
So, but there's this energy about it, and I'm like I'm not in my head about it yet.
Right.
I feel like the more takes go on, the more I'm in my head about like, oh, was that note in tune? It's just,
And then you're trying to like, I mean, it's happened to me where you're just like, okay, I like that part from that take.
Yep.
So I'm going to do that part there. And then I like that one from that. And you're just trying to like kind of piecemeal this thing together, and it's not at all happening.
right. And after 3, I'm like, let's come back to it. If it
Yeah.
takes more than 3, I want to clear it out and move on to something else.
Right. Trish, thanks so much for being on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This was great.
And then the new single is on all the streaming platforms, correct?
Yep. Everywhere you stream music.
Okay, cool. YouTube, is there a YouTube channel involved?
There is a YouTube music channel.
Okay.
And I haven't connected it yet to my page.
Okay.
Because it just came out Friday. So
Right. All right, cool. Great. All the links will be up in the show notes. And thanks again. Thanks again for being on.
great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. If you enjoyed this interview, please make sure to hit subscribe wherever you are checking out the podcast on YouTube. Hit subscribe, hit the little bell, get notified about new upcoming episodes. And if you are listening to the audio version, please subscribe wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts. All right, big thanks to Trish for joining me on the podcast, and make sure to check out her new single on the upcoming EP, Bluegrass Love Songs Volume 1. Can we rewind a second? Can we rewind and just talk about the amount of tunes that are written about dumping bodies in rivers? Huh? Like that's is there a hotline we need to call? Is there some kind of like bluegrass awareness hotline? I love how much Trish is really putting herself into the genre to truly absorb it, and what a big culture shock that must have been, from going from the classical training into bluegrass music and Americana music and things that are very, very different, but still require the same level of precision and attention to detail. It was fantastic having Trish on the episode, and please make sure to check out her recordings. All the links to those are in the show notes, so check that out. Subscribe to what she's doing. Make sure you get notified about her new and upcoming releases for this EP and other projects she has going on. That's about all I got for this one, folks. That's about all I got. I'll catch you on the next one in a minute.